Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It is time, once again, to talk about Star Wars X-Wing Miniatures by Fantasy Flight Games. So, here's a real shocker. I literally just posted this episode debating what the Last Jedi ships might be like, and when they might be out, because there was no reveal right away on Force Friday. And so it came to be the Friday after that. Give FG a little time, let their new announcement about Destiny 2 player, whatever the hell's going on there, come out already. And here we are for X-Wing. And here's a stunner. X-Wing Wave 13. Somehow. Even though the SKUs are before the Wave 12 ships. That'll be a fun question for people who have interview access to FFG. I know, it's shocking, right? It's really weird. But it is what it is. It's probably a marketing thing. Disney made them hold back, so they had to announce it second. So it became Wave 13, even though it's got the earlier product number. So far, there's only two ships in the wave. The TIE Silencer and the... Let's make sure I get this name right. The B/SF-17 Bomber, a.k.a. the Resistance Bomber. So for those of you who watched my video on what will be in Wave 12, it turns out those people were wrong who voted the Resistance Bomber. That's Wave 13. I also put Kylo Ren's TIE Fighter out there as a possible guaranteed because of the movie tie-in ships, but I guess it's not. It's a little weird how they're breaking it up. Maybe this really is a two-ship wave. That seems a little grossly unfair to Scum, but people will shoot me for saying that, so let's forget about it. I'm actually in a little bit of a hurry in this episode because of some stuff going on in the place where I live. It's called Hurricane Irma, and it'll be here soon, so I'm shooting this a little quick off the cuff to be both in time with the news and to make sure I've got it shot before bad stuff happens. But don't worry about me, I'll be fine. So let's talk about that big old Resistance Bomber. It's a large base ship, obviously, as you can tell. And the CG models have got people questioning the scale a little. I don't know for sure. We'll have to see how exactly that's supposed to be. I don't blame FFG if anything's off. I blame Lucasfilm being weird and bad. But let's take a look at this. So the B/SF-17 Bomber, obviously a heavy B-Wing type deal, is a large base ship, like I said. It's got a 2 attack with a primary weapon turret, so it can engage outside of its firing arc. It has a 1 agility, a 9 hull, and a 3 shields. So a bit of a stickler, a bit of a heavy old girl. Got the 2-weapon PWT, which is pretty good. It's a little lacking considering how many guns it's supposed to have, but I can kind of see why, You gotta play it safe. It has the focus and target lock action, so it's got a pretty skinny bar, and it has, in its upgrade bar, just system, bomb, and tech. Now, I gotta say, I've made some predictions about this. I thought it was gonna have a fat old heavy bomber type bar. It's not. It just has double bombs, tech, and system. It's very interesting. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't do torpedoes, especially since like Lego toys have it launching something. And especially given that it really should feel like it fits more crew members, I'm kind of surprised it doesn't have a crew slot. But at the same time, I can kind of see why. We'll see why it doesn't necessarily need the torpedo slot to handle extra munitions, and it doesn't have the crew slot probably to avoid Sabine problems. There's 4 pilots, 3 of them are unique, and then there's a PS1 generic. There's Crimson something, Coral something, and then Crimson Leader. So probably Crimson Ace, and then Coral, or possibly Cobalt. It's hard to tell, they're cut off. Crimson Leader's pilot ability can be clearly seen when attacking. If the defender is in your firing arc, you may spend 1 hit or crit result to assign the rattled condition to the defender. And the rattled condition is when you suffer damage from a bomb, you suffer 1 additional critical damage, and then remove this card. And it's a unique condition, and it has an action that you can roll to discard it on a focus or hit result. So that's a little spookable, but of course that requires you to be in arc on the BS7, which has no native reposition, and it does have no EPT either. So not that it matters because it can't take Deadeye, and it doesn't even have ranged munitions, but obviously, there's some thoughts here. Top pilot is 29 points at 7, so If you reduce that down by about 6 points, that's about 23. I'd expect maybe it's actually like 24 points, maybe. We'll see, to keep in line with like the U-Wing and stuff. It doesn't necessarily seem like it'd be much worth it otherwise, so you can see why it's kind of cheap. It's not got super great health. It's got decent because of the primary weapon turret, but its upgrade options are limited. We know of another couple of cards that are in this pack. I'll talk about those in a second with my usual actually giving you the art. We can see, though, that it comes with 2 copies of ConnerNet, 1 copy of Seismic Charges, 1 copy of Thermal Detonators. There's a new upgrade in here that we'll see again in the TIE Silencer, which I will talk about there. There's a condition, obviously. There's a copy of Target Synchronizer. There is a Def Pleu, which is a BSF-only upgrade card. Probably a modification, because there's no crew. There is a Cross-something formation, which is BS-17 only. Probably a title, which looks like it gives you bonus defense if you're near other resistance ships. That, I think, is very good. That'll be very key, because otherwise there's a strong idea that you might want to fatten these boys up and run them with Nim or Miranda or something. And if it synergizes well with those ships, if it doesn't synergize well with those ships, rather, but it synergizes with other resistance ships, basically resistance YTs or T-70s, that's what you got so far. That could be really interesting, so we'll see about that. Now, I say this thing doesn't need extra munitions because it's got its very own equivalent. So, included in this pack will be Ordnance Silos, BSF-17 Bomber only. It is a bomb slot upgrade card. When you equip this card, place 3 Ordnance tokens on each other equipped bomb upgrade card. So note, if an effect would cause you to discard Silos, Silos does not protect itself like EM does. On each other equipped bomb upgrade card. When you are instructed to discard an upgrade card, you may instead discard 1 Ordnance token on that card instead. 2 points. So, for 2 points, and remember that the most expensive pilot is 29 points, you get basically triple EM on 1 bomb. So you get 4 uses out of 1 bomb, but it uses up 1 of your 2 bomb slots. This is a strong alternative to extra munitions on the ship, and gives it a very unique flavor. If you're going to use the same kind of bombs over and over again, this ship is for you. Alternatively, because it has a double bomb slot, it can be used to deploy bomblets. It's got a system slot, so you can combine it with Minefield Mapper. I don't think it's a super strong contender for it, because especially if you use silos, that just means 1 mine, and then you've got 3 spares. Under current rules, I have heard from people talking to TOs, okay? There's no official FAQ yet, but what people are ruling out there in the field is that it's the once per opportunity rule. You can only pick 1 card once, and then after picking that card, it instructs you to discard, and you discard the token instead. Now, the reason why Ordnance Silos is very interesting is because there's a system upgrade with this lovely ship. 1 points, Trajectory Simulator. You may launch bombs using the 5 forward straight template instead of dropping them. You cannot launch bombs with the action header this way. System slot. So, this is not limited, and this is a very interesting thing to see. A lot of people are spookabled because it's a system slot, and you know who has a system slot and loves bombs and is really popular right now? It's Captain Nim. But here's the thing. 1, that means good old Captain Nim can't take advanced sensors, which is really part of how he is so goofy right now, is he can advance sensors so he can barrel roll before he moves, he can move, and then he can choose to genius. Okay? That gives him a super wide area of coverage, because he can choose to barrel roll before or after his movement, okay? It's a little spooky. This move, Trajectory Simulator, would not allow him to do that. It would only allow him to do it on reveal bombs. And I will say, this mock-up that we're looking at looks like it has different text to the actual card in the fans, so it's possible there might be some difference in here. The idea seems to be that when you would drop a bomb, when you reveal your maneuver, you may instead launch a bomb. So I don't know how that interacts with Genius in the first place. And obviously it doesn't work with action bombs, so it doesn't work with mines, but it works with bombs. So I think this is really good for ships that have a system slot and have bomb slots. Who are those? The SF and the BSF and the Punisher. Who would have guessed? Do I think this is going to help Punishers out? Probably. I mean, one of the issues with the Punisher is that you're loaded up with bombs, and it's hard to get rid of them. Minefield Mapper helps a little. It lets you, pre-dump some of your bombs to Fortress, and you can do that multiple times. Trajectory Simulator will be another alternative. You can choose to throw a bomb at the front quite far. 5 is quite a bit of range. And then have it go off. And that means your opponent has to think about it a little. Unfortunately, this is still a little bit pilot skill related because you have to, choose when to drop it. Though, if you're running multiple generics, if these guys are 25 points, you can probably get 3 of the PS1s in here and stack them all with whatever the cheapest maneuver bomb is, and instead of dropping them out the back, you can just huck bombs forward. And obviously, we're pretty sure since this is a large base ship, there's going to be a rule booklet, and that'll explain what exactly launching bombs is supposed to mean. So let's talk about the other ship that's been revealed for Wave 13, the TIE Silencer. Just TIE Silencer, no mention of VN. Good old Kylo Ren's TIE Fighter. So, this baby has 3 attack, 3 agility, 4 hull, 2 shields. So, 6 total health, a little higher on the hull than the shields. A little bit between, the SF there, a little bit of difference. And it's got 3 attack and 3 agility, so it's definitely what I hope Imperial players will find as a return to form. It has focus, target lock, barrel roll, and boost, so no evade action intrinsically, but got plenty of repositioning. It has a EPT slot in the highest, which is Kylo Ren, at a 9 for once, so here's our new round of 9s. We've got Kylo Ren, we've got a new PS9. Actually, I forgot where he is. Where's the newly announced PS9? Doesn't matter. It'll come up later. But he's back. We all knew there would be more of him. And it has a system and a tech slot. It has no missile slots, which is interesting because it's supposed to carry missiles. But I guess either FFG didn't have that information early enough to include it in the design, or just it was decided that it wasn't necessary for the design of the ship. It's important to note that the dial demonstrator is showing the ever-lovely green 2 turn. So, those of you who love green turns, that's there. It's got what they call the PTL dial. And system and tech is a very interesting combo. It'll be very useful to hit up there. And for the sake of argument, we're going to throw Kylo Ren's card up first, because that has all the stats and stuff. And we'll talk about how he is 35 points. So this is a very expensive ship, okay? Now, that strikes me as a little interesting, that it costs 35 points for PS9. That's pretty hefty. It's got 3 attack and 3 agility, and then 6 total health. Slightly better hull and shields. So it's actually weaker to crits. It looks a lot like a TIE Defender, but without missiles or cannons, but instead systems and tech. And we'll really want to see what that dial is like. I'm wondering if it'll have some white sloops. And of course, as you can see, both on his card and in the fan, it's got his same ability about, I'll show you the dark side. Not as good because he's a PS9. That means people will not hit him, and then he will shoot, and then people will hit him, so he can't trigger it right away. I think that's a good balance, though, with his super high PS. And obviously, in the fan, you can now see the token and the condition card. Also in this fan, we can see there's 2 generics, one with a PS4 and one with a PS6. I sure hope that the PS6 generic has an EPT, because otherwise Imperial players will be very annoyed. And there's also a PS7 unique test pilot something. I believe people who are looking at foreign language translations are saying this is test pilot Blackout, and it looks like his ability is similar to Trick Shot, where he shoots more dice if he's behind an obstacle. So that could be interesting, especially if he's got an EPT slot, which he probably does. And then Kylo at the top, number 9. The TIE Silencer has a title, First Order Vanguard. When attacking, if the Defender is the only ship in your firing arc at range 1 to 3, you may re-roll 1 attack die. And then, when defending, you may discard this card once to re-roll all of your defense dice. That's interesting that it's a title you can discard. That's very much a save your ass kind of thing. It costs 2 points, so it's very expensive. And it's unique, also. So it's mostly for Kylo, or probably Test Pilot Blackout. What I think this does is it makes the TIE Silencer a hunter of 2 ship lists. if your opponent is not staying in tight formation, if he's wiggling away from himself a lot, then, you know, you're going to catch him alone a lot, and then you get free half a TL. And that might free up your actions to use repositions like boosts or barrel rolls to actually get them in there, or to bank focus. Speaking of banking focus, there's a better look on a tech upgrade that looks like it says Advanced Optics, which seems to say you can only have one focus token, and so people are predicting that this is going to be the focused version of Com Relay. There's 2 copies of this also in the SF Bomber, the BSF I should say, so we don't cause any confusion. And yeah, that's going to be big for Poe, and I think it's going to possibly be big for the silencer itself, because, you know, with the system slot, it could equip FCS. With Advanced Optics, it can hoard focus, so you can focus once and then that. So that gives it a lot of room left to actually use its reposition options, which is very interesting. It also comes with 2 copies of Prime Thrusters. That's the tech that lets you boost your barrel with stress tokens, so that's great. That'll probably go well with PTL. You can, you know, PTL to double action once and keep going. It comes with 2 copies of Auto Thrusters, though, which I think is the big seller here. While this is expensive, the MSRP on this is $30, which is pretty hefty for what is ostensibly a small base ship, but it's coming with a lot of upgrades. I think that's mostly why. And so, if you ever wanted copies of Auto Thrusters and you don't want to buy a Star Viper, here's this for you. 2 whole copies. In fact, there's 2 of everything in this box, which is kind of interesting. I think it's really supposed to be almost like, not necessarily an apology, but kind of like a, hey, Empire, we know you're going to get a lot of use out of these cards that are in this chip, so we're going to charge you a little bit more for the ship, but we're going to give you more than your money's worth on it, so maybe you don't have to buy so many copies. After all, the title is unique. There's only 4 pilots, especially given how expensive they are. It's entirely possible you don't want to run multiple generics. There's a tech upgrade that we can't really see. It's like something. Small ship only, it looks like. There is an EBT, which has debris on it, and is a small ship only in an action. As far as people can tell, that's an action that's a little bit similar to, Jyn Erso, how she lets you tell an action to pop focus tokens depending on who's closest in your firing arc. We think that this is an action that lets you pop evade tokens based on what obstacles are closer to you, which would be the only primary way for the silencer to actually get evade tokens. That could be really interesting, especially on Youngster. Maybe that'll help the TIE Swarm, get some more defensible flak. And of course, there's a system slot on this thing, so we have to give you a copy of Sensor Jammer. That I'm not really sure about. But I'm sure, you guys have Phantoms from way back when. You can have a copy of Fire Control Systems to give this thing. We don't know that much about the dial, and then it's got that green turn. What do I think? I think the ship is supposed to be a late-game hunter. It's supposed to give the Empire a chance to build toward those big, beefy guys. I'm going to assume the dial is going to be phenomenal with that high a cost on Kylo. System and tech is a pretty good combo. I think you're going to get a lot of mileage out of this ship, especially as system and tech slots get more popular, but it's maybe not necessarily worth the points right away. We'll have to see. Because this thing is, after all, it's 37 points with the title, no upgrades even. That's a pretty hefty cost. And Kylo Ren doesn't actually want auto thrusters. He wants to be hit. If I had to do back math, the PS4 generic has got to be around 30 points, maybe 29, because it's got no EPT. That's a real, that's a bummer. That's minimum you're going to get 3 of these in a list. But again, that's the less you have to buy, I guess. That's kind of in general how we're going to see that unfold. So that about wraps up what news we know about Wave 13 of all things. We're now looking at 2 wave announcements. They say this thing's going to be here early 2018, so that's kind of interesting. And interesting to see where those delays are. Obviously, there's loads and loads of previews to look forward to, so please keep watching this channel. There's still 1 product number that is not announced, so hopefully that'll get covered soon, and I can do another video about that. You guys can have fun. Time for my usual spiel. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a like. Give any comments if you have any thoughts on these ships below. If you want to know more and you haven't already, please subscribe. There's also a new feature in the description. There's a PayPal link so you can donate to me directly if you like me and you want to give me money. Because, you know, if you like me that much, that's okay. I don't like many people that much. And, yeah, you know, tune in for more in the future on FFG's Star Wars X-Wing.